I mean, what have you made of the various voices this week around this legislation?
I think the most disheartening one for me was the news a few days before the legislation was made public that the Prime Minister was joining the Chancellor and Michael Gove, who is the man nominally in charge of the government's union policy to the extent that it has one, in criticising Liz Truss for bringing it forward. Now, if I were Brussels or Dublin and I was thinking, is the government serious about picking this fight, having this trade war, that kind of story is exactly the kind of thing that would encourage me to be belligerent. Because I'd be thinking, right, if we tough this out, Liz Truss doesn't have the Prime Minister's full support, the government will probably fold, much like Boris Johnson did the first time. So, obviously, there are always elements, as Craig says, there are always elements that are prepared to take the EU side in any discussion. We're in this very strange situation where people insist at once that an invisible economic border is part of the Belfast Agreement, which it isn't, that it is essential to maintain the Belfast Agreement, but simultaneously that the EU would be entirely justified in putting one up. So that's taken as granted, but given the government has a large overall majority, if the government were united on this question, that would be enough to ensure that we could get this bill through. What I'm worried about is, whilst it is great to see the Conservative Party moving towards a stronger position on Northern Ireland, I am worried that they haven't done necessarily the work, and especially the Treasury, which always tends to prioritise economic considerations over anything else, will undermine efforts to hold the line in what could potentially be a very difficult confrontation with the European Union.
And as you rightly said, what we need is unity at this point from the Conservative Party, and it was disappointing to see those reports coming through because, of course, the Conservative Party isn't just the Conservative Party, it's the Conservative and Unionist Party. So surely all of its members should be concerned about the fact that there is this economic barrier between Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Surely that should concern everybody in the Conservative and Unionist Party.
It ought to, and I've long been an advocate of the party using its full name more. Back when I tried to run for council years and years ago, I tried to stand as Conservative and Unionist. I think actually a long-term structural problem for unionism in general is the fact that the Conservative Party is only a mainland concern. It only stands in Great Britain. I think you and I have had this conversation before. I think that Northern Ireland loses out because Unionists representing your own party, the Democratic Unionists, the Ulster Unionists, they're not part of a UK-wide political family. They tend to be sat there with the Liberal Democrats and the others. And I think that does mean that a lot of MPs who have a really instinctive grasp of the Union when it comes to Scotland, they just don't have that connection to Northern Ireland. And I think that's something that we do need to fix urgently as Unionists. But it is disappointing to see people who've been elected as part of the Conservative and Unionist Party, a party which really got its modern form in the fight to defend Northern Ireland's place in the United Kingdom a century ago, to see them so little invested in a question which is of fundamental importance not just to the people of Northern Ireland but to all of us as Brits.
Yeah.